Okay, so in the opening paragraph, we have a lot of description of the setting in this particular exposition. That's the technical term for that opening part of the story again. The long June twilight faded into night. Dublin lay enveloped in darkness, but for the dim light of the moon that shone through fleecy clouds, casting a pale light as of approaching dawn over the streets and the dark waters of the Liffey. Now, lots of the important settings here. Nighttime is a crucial part of the setting, the time of day in this story, because we've got this sense in which darkness itself has a symbolic quality about danger and approaching sinfulness in terms of its biblical history. It's darkness though in summertime, so we've got a moment that should be a kind of positive, warm time of the year, light-filled time of the year, but actually where danger exists and sinfulness exists where it shouldn't. So there's a suggestion just in the time of day and the time of year about the themes of the story, about things existing in places where they shouldn't, including danger, including darkness, including immorality. We're in a very ordinary urban street here, and that it is filled with the disastrous conflicts of war. Dublin is enveloped in darkness, and so that gives us again the sense of the place itself being completely covered and contained by it. But for the dim light of the moon that shone through fleecy clouds, casting a pale light as of approaching dawn. So light here, you think of it being dim in the first place, there's not very much of it, and also it's struggling to shine through fleecy clouds, which are quite thick. So again, light, if you see it as symbolic of morality, of positive morals and of positive living, has a suggestion and connotation of hope and makes it seem as if it's simply weak. Around the beleaguered four courts. Now, beleaguered means it's sort of being harassed and put under strain to the point of failure. So this building is literally falling down. And the four courts are the Irish legislative chamber. They are the place in which laws are enforced, the highest courts of the land. And so there is an irony about this, because these courts should stand for law and order, but the scene that we're being given is one of complete chaos and destruction. And the heavy guns roared. And this personification here gives us this dramatic verb that creates a sense of animalistic danger in the line. Here and there through the city, machine guns and rifles broke the silence of the night. So again, we've got this audible imagery suggesting that the quiet of this particular scene is fragile and can be easily shattered. And it happens spasmodically, like dogs barking on lone farms. And so again, these isolated sounds of gunfire give us that sense of isolation and perhaps the connotation of lost humanity that you would associate with the lonely sound of a dog barking in a country wilderness. Then we move into the introduction of the protagonist. On a rooftop near O'Connell Bridge, we're right in the centre of Dublin, the capital city of Ireland. A Republican sniper lay watching. Beside him lay his rifle, and over his shoulders was slung a pair of field glasses. His face was the face of a student, thin and ascetic, but his eyes had the cold gleam of the fanatic. Now, there's an enormous amount of suggestion going on in this characterization of the protagonist, that he is young. He seems young and thin and ascetic, so he seems, first of all, quite young and weak and maybe even innocent. But the word ascetic is important because it means to deny yourself things in the context of spiritual commitment. And so he is young and zealous. He believes very, very fully in the cause that he is fighting for. He believes in the necessity and the need for Irish independence. And so his ascetic appearance is like this is a word that you would use to describe a monk or perhaps a nun, someone whose life is the embodiment of spiritual commitment. And because of that, they deny themselves, simple bodily pleasures like food and drink and things like this. And so he has this young sense, first of all, from having the face of a student, but his ascetic appearance gives us this sense of his spiritual and ideological commitment. His eyes had the cold gleam of the fanatic. So this is the opposite. He's got this sense of being actually slightly unhinged and perhaps mentally unstable. He is fanatical about his ideological commitments. So there's an enormous sense of, excuse me, this is my dog going crazy. He has an enormous sense of internal conflict. He seems young and innocent, but at the same time he seems unstable mentally and perhaps traumatized in some way. And so he also seems like the man who is used to looking at death. So where he's young in this first sentence, this innocence is lost because he here is aware of mortality.